Welcome, scholars, autodidacts, and curious humans. Curiosity is an important human trait. Without it, our lives would be stagnant and boring. While I grew up, the youngest of 10 children in a poor farming family in south central Kansas, my mother instilled in me a deep curiosity and a love of reading by taking me every 2 weeks to our local library. As a child, I loved the children's section of this library, which was almost half the building. My mother would let me check out 6 or 8 books at a time, which was just about how many books she checked out, because we often spent time in the mornings before I went to attend afternoon kindergarten reading. I was an advanced reader in school, ending up graduating at the top of my class, despite the relative poverty in which I was raised. Books have long been an integral part of my life. Sometimes, when I was home alone, I would sit in front of the family bookcase, which housed 3 sets of encyclopedias, look up something I was curious about, and end up with books spread all around me as I explored word after word that was new to me. I knew so many facts that some of the high school kids called me Encyclo, short for encyclopedia. My insatiable curiosity has led me down many paths, including the research I'm currently conducting on the rise of androcentrism, or the belief that men are superior to women. Beginning circa 2400 BCE, before the Common Era. This anti-female attitude, which still shapes our culture, is something I will discuss in later videos as I get closer to completing my book, Pitiless Prawns: How the Iliad Symbolizes the Rise of Androcentrism. My interest in different cultures, especially in cultures that were pre-literate or neo-literate, meaning they were just developing their ability to write, led me to realize that human beings have long enjoyed telling stories. Humans still love telling stories, from explaining why we do what we do or believe what we believe, to inventing stories to convey our personal sense of the human place in the whole cosmos. It might surprise you to learn that the first author we can actually identify is a woman, the high priestess Enheduanna, who lived in ancient Sumeria in the mid-2300 millennia BCE, 4,300 years ago. Realize that many facts about women's lives from this neo-literate period in human history are still being obscured for many reasons, some of which I am uncovering in the research I'm conducting. But the biggest discovery I've made is that humanity did not clearly connect heterosexual intercourse with conception. Or, to put it in simpler terms, they didn't know that having sex was what created babies until about 2400 BCE. Prior to this date, women were magical because we produced children seemingly by ourselves, like magic. We could bleed 3 to 5 days, a month, without dying. A magical trait men tried to duplicate with circumcision and other forms of genital mutilation. And we could transform beasts into men, as happens in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and transform men into kings via the ancient Krisu ritual, which Enheduanna, in her role as high priestess of the goddess Inanna's temple, enacted to sanctify kings' reigns. Because women were magical and men did not yet know they had a role in procreation, most cultures prior to this discovery were egalitarian, meaning men and women shared equal status and roles. Yet, you will encounter many scholars, including female scholars who consider themselves feminists, who have not yet figured this fact out. So assume that men have always dominated women and begin their studies with that assumption. I know because I was one of those scholars. Because I now have the evidence necessary to assert that there were more egalitarian forms of society prior to men's learning they have a biological role in procreation. which led to the rise of androcentrism and the often brutal domination of men over women, to what we now call the patriarchy. I realized that I need to share some of the books that shaped my understanding of how the last 4,300 years of male dominance have affected humanity, and why it is important for every human being, to believe women are equal to men. Please realize that I don't hate men just because I want to elevate women. And I do not think that most men are cruel, selfish, or domineering. I, for instance, have been happily married to a wonderful woke man for more than 34 years. But there are many men and women who take advantage of the androcentric power structures upon which our cultures have been based for their own benefit. So my goal with this BookTube channel is to educate, elucidate, and transform our cultures back into more egalitarian forms in order to improve all of our lives. I firmly believe that strong men are feminists and weak men are sexist because they feel the need to feel superior to someone, and women are a convenient group to demoralize. But there are also many women who support sexist views against women because these women take advantage of the androcentric power structures upon which our cultures have been based for their own benefit. Remember this important lesson: no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. You also cannot feel superior without putting someone else down. So even though our androcentric culture tells us that only the brutal win, remember, when we are all allowed to, or even helped to succeed, we all benefit. The smallest aspect of that benefit is a more peaceful, more prosperous, more inclusive society. So do what you can to uplift others. So welcome to the ultimate book of Ruth. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.